Chainsaw Man Chapter 139 proves one thing about Denji's character is that if you want to sink your hooks into him to get him to do whatever it is that you want him to do, all you need to do is press the horny button and Denji immediately folds. It's a hilarious character flaw for Denji of just him being down bad, but what I love is how Fujimoto used this moment of horniness to show a more serious side to Denji's character that can get overlooked, and is actually a sign of one of the more brilliant aspects of Denji's character. Beneath the humor and the horny gags, there's actually some raw substance there to build on with Denji that I think is really going to pay off for his character by the time we reach the conclusion for his character arc. It's a gradual, but there is a change there, and the shift is clearly happening before our very eyes. So my initial thoughts done, let's back things up a bit and let's dive into the recap portion of the review before we further unpack the significance of the chapter. So the chapter opens up where the last one left off, and it has the Sword Devil hybrid introduce himself to Denji, stating he's indebted to him for what he did in the battle with Makima, and Denji makes a face before telling him, look, it wasn't me who fought Makima, which we know what made Denji call that Makima battle a quote long story, but just in that one panel before he speaks, you can see how much weight is on Denji's face, almost as if he's reliving the entire Control Devil arc in his head while the conversation is going on, which is another nice way to keep someone like Makima relevant in the story, even if it's only through character interactions like this, which leads to Denji just saying, dude, I'm out of here, I'm going to school. However, if Denji thought that he was going to be free of the Sword Devil, he's absolutely wrong, because we learned that the Sword Devil hybrid is actually a student at Denji's school named Sugo, who just happened to transfer there. And as a side note, the high school sure is becoming a hotbed for overpowered people with devil connections. You got Denji and Yoshida, you had Yuko before she got killed off, you got fake Chainsaw Man who killed Yuko, you got Asamitaka and Yoru, you got the oh so lovable grown woman Fumiko who is pretending to be a student so she can spy on Denji, and now you got the Sword Devil hybrid. This feels like as bad of an idea in terms of combustible items all being in a tight space together as that one time I thought it was a good idea to put a metal container in a microwave and heat up my food. If you ever want to see a microwave blow up, I recommend doing that. Now, it's then that we see Denji get pissed off, not because of the fact that the guy is at his school, but because this guy's getting more attention from all the girls in his class, and he's telling Denji to get rid of all these girls for him. We shift over to Fumiko using Denji as a chair while Sugo is trying to talk to Denji and get him to join the Chainsaw Man church, and we see him tell Denji he's offering him a high position. Fumiko and Denji basically go, wait a second, it's the Chainsaw Man church. You're gonna have to do a lot better than a high position if you want Denji, Chainsaw Man, to join the Chainsaw Man church, with Fumiko flat out saying that Denji should be the leader, which is a scary thought of the fact of Denji having that much influence over that many people, let alone leading them around. Because Denji, while he is lovable, he isn't necessarily the brightest guy in the world. Sugo tries to show the appeal of working with them, saying that the work isn't necessarily hard and he gets to pick and choose what he actually does, and in return he gets really good pay and he'd be able to eat steak every day like Sugo does, which leads to Denji saying, wait a second, steak every day, that's cool fam, but I'd rather eat Chinese food every day. And Fumiko says, hey, I'd rather eat sushi every day. And before things get too far off track, Sugo's like, wait a second, I'm surrounded by idiots, this isn't what we were supposed to be talking about. And so he gets the conversation back where it belongs. He hits Denji right in his soul with some really brilliant character writing here, where he drops a line that we as readers know landed with Denji, but even someone like Sugo, who hasn't had too much interaction with Denji, can see it's effective. He tells Denji that they have something in common and being used as tools by others, and he knows that Denji is as tired of it as he is, which even Denji cops to that actually being the truth. Where Sugo tries to make his shots land on Fumiko, she flips it around on him, asking if he's sure if he's not being used right now by the Chainsaw Man church. And this is where I think it becomes obvious that Fumiko, while she can be a bit of a half-wit at times, she's smarter than she's letting on, because she's planted the seeds of doubt inside of his mind in that one moment. And here's the thing, that's just one card that she can play, because she obviously knows that Denji's horny enough that she can sway Denji, but none of that back and forth between those two initially phases Denji, who says that he's fine where he is because he's getting to live a normal life, which is all he ever wanted. However, once he's told that he'll be missing out on sleeping out with all the women he wants, Denji, who was previously being used like a chair by Fumiko, suddenly moves so fast that Sugo has to ask him if he teleported, and Denji says, enough about all that, I'm joining the Chainsaw Man Church. So with the initial recap done, let's further unpack the chapter itself. So this is really interesting because Denji agreeing to join the Chainsaw Man Church makes you immediately wonder what will happen to Nayuta, because you have some believe at some point someone in the Chainsaw Man Church is going to want to see Chainsaw Man transform into Chainsaw Man. That's obviously going to be a request that's made. When Denji said that he was fine with this normal life, it's really ironic when you look at it, because a normal life for him is a ton of suffering when you really sit down and you just look at what normal life is for him. But it's clear this is being used for Denji's character development. When you really sit down and look at it, all Denji truly has is Nayuta, and there's a chance he's putting her in danger with this decision here. He's being used again, whether it be by Yoshida or by the Chainsaw Man Church. He can't transform into Chainsaw Man anymore, which is a core part of his identity. Literally, without the power to transform into Chainsaw Man, he would have been dead in chapter 1. On top of that, there's a phony pretending to be Chainsaw Man, making people believe that he's Chainsaw Man, all while not understanding all the heartbreak that Denji went through on his journey to become exactly what he is as Chainsaw Man. Like that iconic scene where Denji and Power are taking that bath together, which out of context might make someone think, wait, this is dirty, or someone might say, hey, this is a romantic scene between Denji and Power, but this one moment shows how much Denji has opened up his heart towards Power after all the battles that they've been through together and all the experiences that they've had living with Aki, only to have it suddenly ripped away when Makima killed her, and Denji was unable to stop her for doing so. Here's the thing, this Denji who was living a normal life looks like he doesn't have a true purpose anymore. When you look at everything that's happened since he agreed to stop transforming into Chainsaw Man, he looks more exhausted than he ever did before. Before, he could use the Chainsaw Man adventures to escape from his past trauma, which we know he hasn't fully dealt with because of the flashback we saw of Aki and Power during the battle with the Falling Devil. He doesn't really have any true friends. Everyone just wants to use him, and now he's basically broke and has Nayuta to care for on top of it. At least when he was Chainsaw Man, he could kill a few devils and he could make a few bucks while he was doing so. Denji is living a normal life, but he's suffering right now. Denji joining his own cult, it's not something that we should be shocked about, but it's the context of how we got here that makes that land in the way that it does. Now, the other thing that stands out here is that we're literally told by Sugo that the hybrids are back. When you read the chapter very closely, he says that there are more people like himself and Denji who can transform into devils in that cult, which means the hybrids that Makima was using, we have to assume that we can place each and every one of them as being potentially back. If the hybrids are indeed back, this makes me wonder if we'll continue to see more connective tissue from Chainsaw Man Part 1 actually introduced into the story. Like, say for instance, bringing back all the hybrids who Makima was controlling. Let's say they're all super thankful to Denji. That's going to be very interesting because we're told that a war is coming, and those are some very powerful assets at Denji's disposal. It's going to be really interesting to see where Fujimoto takes his plot moving forward. So my chapter question to you guys is, if you could only choose one hybrid to bring back as a part of this Chainsaw Man cult, who would you choose and why?